Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I'm working with the beautiful Cheerful Daisies stamp and die set. You can see here, this is the stamp set. On the inside here I've got the dies, which you can see cut out the flowers and the leaves and the stems, but also make these lovely sort of like 3D layered flowers. And I'm also using the Fresh as a Daisy DSP, 12 by 12, and you get one sheet that cuts up to make all this sort of lots of different accent pieces. On the reverse, lovely moody mauve. So you've got all these lovely little pieces just ready cut that you can pop onto the front of your card, as you can see here. So all of those just cut up from that one sheet of paper. And then you've got 5 other designs that you can see here. So we've got this sort of lovely sort of greens and yellows. This is the new copper clay colour in the background there. We've got beautiful moody mauve and bubblegum. No, bubble bath. This one is a lovely panel, and you can see here, this will give you an idea. So it stretches across. You can make card fronts out of that. And then lovely sort of greys here. And then the colours, I've just got some swatches of the card. You'll see Azure Afternoon. We've got Boho Blue, one of the new in colours. As I said, you've got Bubble Bath, Cajun Craze and Copper Clay. You can see here, so this is Copper Clay compared with Cajun Craze, that brighter one. Crushed Curry, good old favourite. Early Espresso, really good staple. A bit of Garden Green in there as well. There's our lovely Moody Mauve. And Lemon Lolly, which I haven't got out at the moment, but I will have in a moment. This is Pebbled Path, another one of the new in colours. Returning Pretty Peacock and Wild Wheat as well. So lots of different colours in there to use. And certainly if you're getting some of the new cards, I would recommend getting the new Core Colours pack. So if you get the Core Colours pack of card, of A4 card, it gives you 2 sheets of all 11 of the new and returning colours. And then if you get a pack of the A4 in colours, that gives you 4 sheets of each of the 5 in colours as well. So you've got a really good mix of cardstock without having to buy packs. And certainly, you know, as a if you're creating cards, you don't necessarily want 20 sheets of card and at any one time. And so those mixed packs are a great way, I find it, as a demonstrator, of kind of playing around with the colours before I actually decide which packs I'm going to invest in. And then this is the card we're making. So it's a variation on a fold back card, landscape version, and you can see I've made the most of that lovely DSP here for the card front. I've added some accents using the dies here. And then on the inside, I've created this stamped panel. And then you've got 2 side panels where you can write your sentiment if you don't want it visible. Or you could decorate those and you could pop a panel on the back for your sentiment. And you'll see here I've built up using the dies in 3. So it's kind of almost monochrome, but I've just picked up the odd colours. So for that, what I've done is you've got this big die here, which cuts out the 3 flowers. And that's actually our middle layer, and it cuts out in a single piece. I've got one here in Berry Burst, one of our returning colours. You see that cuts out in a single piece like so, and you just pop the little bits out, you can see there. And then you've got some detailed ones here which layer on the top. And then these individual flowers, which are designed to cut out the ones in the stamp set, I've then cut out and layered behind to create our flower. So you can see I've got a large one here. So I've used Misty Moonlight at the back there, I've used some basic white, and then I've used the lovely boho blue on the top. And I just think that gives a great fun flower. So quite a bit of die cutting on this, but hey, let's go for it. You've got this lovely little label as well, which fits the sentiments. Me, always like a sentiment on here. Your friendship means everything. Wishing you the brightest birthday, really useful one. You made my day, and oops-a-daisy, so sorry. Yeah, that's the usual one. No, it's not the usual one. It's one I use reasonably frequently because I forget birthdays. which is crazy, you know, card maker. But life gets busy, and we know that. So things that I would recommend that you use is a double-sided adhesive sheet, and all I've done here is I've added some basic white and I've added some of our double-sided adhesive sheet on the back. Comes in a pack, you'll see here, and it's all you do is I just cut a piece off and add it usually to a 6x4, and then I keep it in the front there so that any scraps I've got left I check in here first before I use up some more of my card. So the first thing I think we're going to do is I'm going to do some stamping and die cutting for our card. Again, you know, if you're new to making fun folds, this is a really straightforward and easy one to make. Make yourself one out of some old card, or I've used some quite just thick kind of paper here, and I use this because I find it's a good way. You see there, it stands up really nicely. Like it's a bit of variation almost on a U-fold, but what I find is that by doing it this way, if I make any mistakes, or which I did even on my sample, you know, we all make mistakes, you can correct it quite easily, and before you use up your good stuff. Okay, so in terms of dimensions, I will be working in centimetres, and that's my kind of go-to measurements. However, I will also put the measurements in centimetres, in inches and in US card to make a US card size on the inside. When I do centimetres, I tend to work slightly smaller sometimes when I'm working centimetres. And by that I mean, instead of using a quarter, which is 14.85, I will often round down to 14.5 centimetres. That way I get a nice, it's easy to create layers. So that's what I'll be doing with this. Okay, anything else you need to know? I don't think there is. So this is my centre panel that I'm going to stamp on, and this is going to be 13.5 by 10. So this is just going to sit on the inside of that. So this makes it kind of closer to the 5.5 inches, but you'll see there, that's our centre panel. So I'm going to want one of those. I'm then going to want two pieces for the inside here, and those are 4.5 by 10 centimetres. And again, you know, I don't let anything go to waste. You know, I keep all my bits of cardstock in a pack here, so I can often use those as well. So I'm just going to cut this down to 10 centimetres because we want our layer, and I'm going to cut two at 4.5. So those are going to be my two panels to go on the inside, like so. Now this bit, you can pop some double-sided if that tape on there, because you're going to want that for your stems. If you haven't got the double-sided sheets, then you can glue these. There is sufficient to use a wet glue, and I use that on some of these. This is the only one that I find tricky to glue with a wet glue unless you use a sponge. But you know, it's always personal choice, which is your preferred method. But you see, I've kind of used all of the colours on that one. Okay, so other things, we will do some cutting for the base and things in a minute. So let's create our card base. So here's my piece of card. Now on this one, this is the beauty of it. So on this one, I smudged my ink. So behind there is a horrible smudge where I stuck my finger in things, because my ink pads are really juicy because I haven't crafted in such a long time. So I used my the die cut panel to add the sentiment and cover up the boo-boo. So I'm going to use these two smaller stamps. Whilst I like that big one, it is quite dominant. We're going to be using our stem stamp, our leaf stamp, and I'm also going to use this tiny little one, which is the little centre. And rather than use the copper clay, I'm going to use the boho blue, because what I'm going to do is use that one of the panels off that big sheet I showed you. You can see here. Now this comes in at just under, it's just about 10 centimetres, so I will have a small gap top and bottom, which I didn't have on my original, but I just think it's such a pretty one, it's well worth it. And because it's got the wild wheat colour at the bottom here, I'm going to do my stems and leaves in wild wheat. Things I did with this, I stamped the outline first in my darker colour. So I'm using my Misty Moonlight here, and I'm just going to come in. And obviously you can put these flowers I've kind of put them both ways. I think that's the way, with the sort of shorter petals at the top, but with the die cut here I had the bigger ones on the top as well, so you know, you can do it whichever way you like. It's a Misty Moonlight, and I'm just going to come in and I'm actually going to do slightly different. Let's do those there. They're my 3 Misty Moonlight flowers. I'm going to come in with my sort of, this is almost like an echinacea when you see it sideways on. Me dithering about, there we go, like so. Put those off to the side, and then I'm then going to use my boho blue for my 2 side panels and my wild wheat. So I'm going to come in, first of all I'm going to do my stems. So just going to pop those in wild wheat. Those just coming off the side slightly. Okay. I'm going to come in with my leaves. I'm just going to, I'm just going to come in first generation with those to match the stem. With the copper clay I did stamp off a little bit because it was coming up, because it was so juicy, it was coming out quite dark. I'll pop that leaf a little bit further down. Just pop a couple of leaves in the bottom there as well. They're not exactly on the stems, but they're kind of close enough. And then I'm going to use this across the bottom here. And this actually, you can make a really pretty autumn card with these. So, then all I'm going to do now is use this little insert just to add the centres of the flowers. Rocking that a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to pop a little extra in that one. There we go. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to use my boho blue to stamp those top panels. So I'm going to grab my sort of flower trio, and as I say, I'm probably going to stamp off on that one. There we go. And then come in with my info. So these are 2-step stamping. You know, you can colour these if you want to, depending on what you prefer to do. But I rather like this sort of quick and easy way of getting those flowers coloured in. I'd say it's very much preferences, but they're easy to line up once you've got that darker outline in place. See, just all I'm doing is just hovering and rotating until I can see they're lined up, and then down. So there we go. So those are our 2 panels. I'm going to pop those to one side. So hopefully what you're going to use for the die cutting. So I'm going to want, with these, for the white ones, what I actually did was I came in on some scraps with this large die. So I didn't want the whole thing, so all I did was I just popped it on the edge like so and cut those out. And that means that I haven't got lots of pieces, not wasted, but sitting to one side. So this is what it cuts out. You can see here, this sort of large floral spray. So I just want those 2 bits there. So just pop it on a scrap. And so once you've cut it, those are the flowers, and on that one I've just trimmed off the leaves as well. So you've got lots of options there. So I'm going to want all of these dies, and I'm going to want one of those as well. Okay. Remember to put my dies back. And again, I use my magnetic sheet on the inside of my my cases, and I actually pop the sheet that comes with it in the back there as well, so I know it's all together, because I've learnt otherwise I end up with lots of packets, and I can use the empty packets then for other things, for storing embellishments or other things like that. So I've got some wild wheat cardstock. I've got some boho blue, which has got some double-sided adhesive on it as well, and I've got some basic white. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut a few pieces with those. And you're going to want, out of these, you're going to want to die cut each of these dies 3 times. So you're going to want to cut this one in white 3 times on the edge there. You're going to want to cut this one and this one 3 times in Misty Moonlight, and then we're going to cut the 2 detailed ones for the centre, this one and this one, 3 times in Boho Blue. Okay, so we've got our piece. So I've got 2 of the wild wheat fronds, we've got a couple of labels, 1 for spare, 3 each of the middle daisies, 3 each of the smaller daisies, and then 3 of the basic white, and then 3 each of the 2 lots of accents and some stems as well. So all I'm going to do is just trim these away, and when you trim them you'll find that you're left with like a little nub on the one, so just again trim those away as you go around. And say, you know, you can always keep your large ones for another project if you want to. I decided it was, I'd already got some spare, so I was just going to go for these as they were. I'm just coming in with my snips. Really are the best scissors. They're absolutely fantastic. There we go. Right. Okay, so now all we need to do is actually just layer these up. Now, as I said, you could layer these up if you wanted to with adhesive sheet. I find that these ones actually are fine without, because they've got enough space on them to add adhesive. So I'm just going to, all I'm doing is just removing those little bits in the middle so you get the colour coming through. Like so. So I'm just going to come in with my Tombow, and I'm going to do all of them at the same time. I'm just going to come in. If you've got a fine tip glue, then great. Get this one going. Obviously I'm not wanting to play, so I'm just adding a little bit on here. And by doing it with this, it'll actually give a little bit of time for that glue to set, so it's less likely to kind of squidge out. So I'm putting a tiny dot and kind of dragging it to get the layer. And as I say, you could use a sponge as well. Usually take your pick to hold it in place. Oh, talking of which, if you haven't seen, there are some new tools to go with the take your pick. Some new ends, including a scalpel end, a perforating wheel. In fact, if I get a chance, I'll try and remember to show it to you. I've got it on my desk. In front of me. I haven't actually opened it yet, so I'm just, you can see, just adding the glue to those main pieces. And with these, I don't mind if they don't stick completely flat, because I kind of think it gives a nice sort of added lift to the flowers, so it kind of makes them a little bit more 3D. There we go. So those are all my white layers, so I'm just going to pop those in place onto each of my ones. Like so. And this just gives a really nice sort of shadow effect on these. Tell them how to practice with videos. I'm obviously going much slower than usual. Oh, that one must be making things more complicated, because my videos seem to be lasting longer at the moment. Hey, there we go. Hopefully you don't. You can always fast forward. Hope you don't mind me waffling on too much. There we go. And I'm doing these in this order because that will, these will then kind of like dry whilst I'm creating the card base as well. There we go. Okay. So now we're on to our second bit, and these have got the double-sided sheet on them. So just lift those up and then pop them. This is where, okay, I've forgotten to line these up. There we go. Yeah, that's it. There we go. Once you get one in, it's not so bad. So just use either your nail or just pop your, I mean, I've got one of the old ones, but use your take your pick to get in there. Not doing a very good job here, am I? There we go. So all I'm doing is I'm just lining up I'm using these bottom ones mainly to line up. There you go, here's the third of the large ones. And then we can just add, and you see, I mean, they look lovely like this, but I just think having that extra layer, particularly with the dark shadow in the background, just brings them to life a little bit more. There we go. And finally, okay, right, so now we can crack on with our card. So the card base itself, you need a sheet of A4 cardstock, and it uses sort of 3/4 of one. So the first piece is actually 10.5 centimetres wide, and I'm going to trim that down to 26 centimetres. So, and then scoring, I'm going to score at 1 centimetre on this end, turn it round, and we go 1, so 6, 20, and then at 25 centimetres. Okay, so very simple scoring. You then want 2 panels for the front, which are 7 by 10.5. So this is, I'm just going to make sure it is 10.5. Yeah, it is. So I'm just going to cut this at 7, and then a second piece at 7 as well. So you want 2 pieces like that. Then my layer of DSP, as I said, this is actually, it's just under sort of 10.5, so it's like sort of 10.2-ish, and this is sort of 13, 13.4, so that's going to be 6.7 to get it in the middle. 6.7, okay. And as I said, it's just going to give just a little border around there, which I didn't have my original, but I felt it was worth having for these to make use of this lovely paper. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a bit of adhesive onto the back here, and then put those onto those panels. Like so. And then you just want to keep them in the orientation so that they match up. Now you don't have to, but I just think it will look better when that card is closed to do that. So there we go. I'm just going to pop those. So there we go. So those are the ones. Just going to pop those one to each side so that I don't make a mess of it. Now when it comes to our card base, all you're going to do is reinforce those score lines with those little skinny ones, And then those little skinny ones, fold them back on themselves and really burnish well to reinforce that crease. And then I'm just going to come in and just nibble those outer edges. Not essential, but I just find that if you're slightly off with your lining up, it isn't going to be obvious. So there we have our card, as you can see, really straightforward. And all we're going to do, and this is the trickiest bit of the card, is I'm going to add some adhesive down the centre there. And this card is going to line up with our outer edge. So do the first one. And I find it quite a good idea to do it like so. And do the same on this one. And what you want to do is for those to meet in the middle. Like so. So it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly to the edge. The important thing is that it meets nice and flat in the middle. And that gives us our little sort of opening effect. So now we can add our panels to the inside. And then start layering our pieces onto the front. So if you fold it back so you can centre that, do the same on this one. Now we can start layering up the fronts. And again, what I did on here was I sort of did my one side at a time. So on one side I had one of the large ones in the centre, and the other I had one of the smaller ones. And this way you kind of get similarity but a little bit of difference as well. Then I put the two sort of like middle-sized ones on the side here. And the idea is that the trios generally look better. I'm just putting a single dimensional on the back here, like so, and varying the height slightly. Again, as you can see, a single dimensional fits really well on the back of these. And then I come in with my stems. As I said, and with these, I've most of them I've added double-sided tape onto the back, so that just makes it really easy to pop into place there. This one I haven't. There we go. Here's another one I have. And with some of those, it's just being frugal because I'm only going to use part of a stem. So I'm just going to pop that one in, just tuck it underneath. Like so. So I've got a join there. Okay, pop that in there. And when those overlap at the bottom, if you just flip your card over and come in from the back, you'll get that nice and flush. So just a single layer, but just do that. And then this one, just to show that you can do it with some Tombow, I'm just going to run a tiny bit, again, kind of almost a little blob, and then kind of like spread it. So you don't need to put a lot on there. And then I'm going to pop my spray. Yeah, okay, let's pop that on there. And that spray, A, ties it in with the background, and B, covers up where those stems join together as well. And again with those, where it overlaps, just come in from the back and snip. Get it nice and flush. So there we have a kind of variation on a double fold back, using those lovely panels from Fresh as a Daisy with our Cheerful Daisies as well. I think I probably prefer this one. It's slightly less busy background, but let me know which you think. Which is your favourite colour? Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and if you'd like to purchase from me, just search for Heidi Smith, and I'd be really appreciative if you chose me as your demonstrator. And as always, hit the subscribe button, it really helps, and you then get told when I post another video. Thanks for watching me. Bye now.